I'm going to do this the best that I can. I've had a few people request how I use the SVGs from Brutus Monroe. So I have my Canvas workspace open. I'm going to start a new project, blank canvas. I'm going to upload my folder. So now you'll have to go in and it's wherever you have your files. I have mine in a specific folder under, you know, each release. So I'm going to open my Winnie and Friends. I'm going to continue because this is upload. Here, over here, I kind of make some tabs. So I'm going to put it in my Winnie and Friends release collection, my Bees release collection. I have tabs like Brutus Monroe, Winnie and Friends, a balloon, stars, because that's all kind of depends on what it is. So if I'm looking for specific things, so I'm going to quick put those in. I'll be right, got my little tags in there. So I'm going to click upload down in the corner and then it's all in here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go under here, under arrange, I'm going to click ungroup. And so then this is how I make my negatives. I'm just going to click make up in the corner. Save project. Oh, this is, I got to name it. I always name it whatever the stamp set is, Winnie and Friends. So as you can see, and then I can add it again, and I'm going to call this squares because these are going to be this is going to be my file for when I want to make negatives again. So that means there's only one of each one. So now it's on my cart. You can see it's on here. I'm going to switch it over to 8.5 by 11. And then what I'm going to do is move each one around so that they have enough. And actually, I'm going to switch this. I like to have, well, I guess it doesn't matter. I just rearrange them so that I have plenty of space to cut them. And then I can make, yes, okay, I'm going to do this opposite way like this. We're going to put this one here. So I'm leaving a little space between each so that I can make them squares. And then I have them moved over a little bit so that there's a little border around each side when I cut them. Now I'm not going to show the cutting. I will come back when they're done cutting so that you can see what I'm talking about. For me, I try to, you know, use specific lines so that when I go to cut them off, I have plenty of space between. Move this one over a little bit. I am going to rotate this one so that it doesn't matter if it's, I do want it as straight as possible. There we go. There may be better ways to do this. I'm still fairly new using this. I'm going to put this one right here up in this corner, I think, to be honest with you. And then we've got all the stars. I don't worry too much about the stars and stamping because I may even actually delete. I'm going to just hide them for now because I may not SVG cut those out. I'm just going to hide them so I don't have to see them right now on my squares. I'll decide that later. I'll move my balloon over here. And then I'll move this one right here in the center. So now I could actually have all those stars. And then I'm going to actually move this around so that I can stick this right kind of in here. And that's just so that when I go to cut, it's easy for me to cut them. Now, the big thing I try to do is make sure they're actually square. Okay, so now I've got plenty of cut lines. I will click continue. And then I follow the instructions. You know, like I said, it's a basic cut. It's connecting to my machine. I have a Joy Extra. I'm just gonna wait. Okay, so I use heavy cardstock, 100 pound. I click that, and I like to do more, which means it's gonna double cut. And now I'm ready to load my machine and click go. So I will come back when I am done cutting these out. Okay, so I thought I'd show you this is what it looks like when I pushed cut. I loaded the machine as properly and then just pushed cut. You can pause if you need to, and it is cutting. I wanted to show you a little bit that it just goes to cut. Not going to show you the whole thing, just a little bit of cutting. And then I'll come back and show you how I make my negatives. So here's my negative sheet. I'm going to go ahead and what I do is like I said, I cut them. This is one of the reasons why I have them spaced far apart so that I can cut them like this and have these squares. So I like to cut them. I like to have them as, they don't have to be perfectly square. I just like having them square. So I will cut one for each one of my negative pieces that I made. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, I like to have a nice edge around them. Sometimes I have to cut a little bit down, like for the balloon here. But I don't measure. I just make them appropriate. And then we'll cut this last two here. You know, I can save the scraps for something else, or I can just throw them away, which is probably what I'm going to do in this case. So there, I've got all of my negative pieces for my images. And next I will show you how I line them up and stamp out multiples. The next thing I do is take my stamp sentiments. I'm going to go ahead and I'll do the bigger image here. And I'm going to go ahead and put it right wherever I want it in my MISTI. You can do multiples at a time, but for our purposes, I'm just going to do one at a time. I have just a piece of, it can be any kind of paper, copy paper. I have plenty of these MISTI panels that my Sweet Petunia sells. So I just use those up. Just needs to be a piece of paper you can stamp on. And then I stamp it down. It doesn't have to be a perfect image on here. I'm going to grab another magnet here. And then what I do is I take my little mask that I made and I go ahead and I line it up and I look at all the outside edges. Oops, I'm a little off camera here. Let me move up a little bit. And I line it all up till I'm happy, till all the outside edges are in the right place. And I'm going to go ahead and put my magnet down. Now you could tape it down. Sometimes I do use some tape and tape it down, which I might do right now, especially if I'm doing multiple images. You just take some low-tack tape. It can be masking. It can be any kind of tape, to be honest with you, just to hold it in place. And I think I got to move it just a little bit. I'm looking at, oh shoot, move the piece of paper. Hopefully I got it lined back up right. I tried to line this up in the corner. We'll see. What I'm going to do is we're going to put this down again. I'm just taking my time, lining it up. Taking your time and lining it up helps be key. So what I'm going to do before I put my image in, I'm going to stamp up one more time, make sure I kind of pretty much lined up where I need to be. Yep, so I'm exactly where I need to be. And I had also cut out numerous images, just white paper, of the, you know, without squares. I just let my MISTI do the work, just put multiples on so they were, I cut a couple pages of them. And then I just fit it in. It just fits in. Oh, one other thing I like to do is take some removable tape or low-tack repositional tape, put a little pieces of tape in there. It's not required, but for me, I like it. It holds them in place a little bit better. And then I just kind of line it up and fit it in. You know, it's the outside edges that are more important than anything else. And fit it in there. And then stamp it down. And what's nice is that you can do multiple images at a time. Where is my little, there it is, my press. Stamp this down and pick it up. And like this is the first time I'm really using this stamp set, so it needs to, and sometimes you got to ink more than once until you condition the stamp good. And there we go. And then I take my pick tool, and I got little stuff on the edge of mine. I'll pull the next piece off, grab the next one, slip it in there, and stamp it down. And I do that for all of my images until I have a whole bunch, or however many I want to do. I figure if I'm going to line this up in my Misty and do this, my negatives, I might as well do them all. So I'm just going to keep going and going. You can use, you could heat emboss with them. I've done that. I've done watercolor paper. That's why I like to use the multiple cut. And that little bit of sticky tape in the bottom just holds them in place so that I can just keep going and going and going. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. Once I'm done, I don't reuse this piece of paper. I mean, I use it in my Misty, but I don't necessarily use it for the negative pieces. I try to get as much as I can. I might flip it over, but I don't usually reline it up. You can, but I'm not good at that. You know, some people can line up the stamp perfectly and rearrange it right back on their image. I'm just not. I usually am always off just a little bit. So I hope this helps. This is how I use SVGs. And then the other thing I do is that I stamp these all out and then I put them in little packaging, like I save from my card panels or my star stamps, and I just stick them in, and then I can stick them in with my stamp set. This one has multiples from when I was getting stuff ready, and that's what I do. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp these all out, and then I'll videotape doing one of the sentiments and that smaller image with the bees, just to show you how it works with those two. But that is how I use my Cricut and SVGs to create negatives to do multiple stamping. We will see you in a little while. So I'm back and I stamped all of these out. Some I just stamped in Raven ink. Some of them I stamped in Raven ink. And then I covered them with icicle embossing powder so that I can watercolor with them. And I've already got my bee chain lined up here. And I wanted to show you that it's just as easy. One thing with the stamplets like this, you would just want to let it kind of flop on your seat. You could, you know, and then pick it up. You don't want to try to arrange it and hold it. I just dropped it. Now, one thing you could do is you could use your negative and put it in there till kind of line up so it would work. But I didn't have any issue with it. I just, like I said, dropped it and put it back down on my sheet. And then I've got us all lined up. Get my magnet there out of the way. I'm going to do the same thing. I don't have quite as many of these cut out as I did the other. Mostly because this is probably something I'm going to use as for backgrounds and accents, but I just pulled it and stamped it. I added a little bit of removable tape to that little circle spot there, just so it can stay in there. Now this is a more delicate stamp, so I pushed down that one kind of hard. Really just need to wipe my fingertips over it instead of push down super hard. Kind of peek at it and just see, but that way it's not quite, it doesn't get kind of squished down a little bit. So there is that. So, and the sentiments would be the same way, or any of the other images. So I hope this helped you out. And thanks for joining me. Give me a thumbs up, a like, a comment, a subscribe, any of that good stuff. And I will see you in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.